Hey, everybody, welcome to our podcast today of business, money, and Christianity. We're a financial podcast from a faith perspective. We talk about business items, how to get our lives working better. And we thank you for stopping by once again as we share for about 15 minutes or less just on some principles of business and of life. And today we are I'm going to give you 4 points on how to do business better. If you master these 4 points, a lot of things are going to fall into place and everything. There's a lot of things in business that seem kind of natural. People figure it out. There's some things that are not as natural, and we tend to linger in them longer than what we should. Um, the the first element, the first point that I want to talk about is obsessing over your customer's problem, not your solution. Now, it may seem obvious, but a lot of people get this wrong is they're so focused on what they want to do and how they want to do it that they forget about what does the customer need. Because really the only value that we as a product or service supplier can do is answering questions or making something more convenient for our potential customers. So it can be a painful process because I may like doing things a certain way, but if it doesn't solve my client's problem, they might not use me. They might go on to somebody else, figure it out on their own, or whatever. So if we obsess over what do our customers need within the niche that we have, uh, then we can solve the problems. What if we had, let's say we were a mechanic, and if you take me, I don't know cars. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not car inclined. For me, a car is just to get you from point A to point B comfortably and safely. But what if I'm a do-it-yourselfer, but I'm not a real mechanic? What if I figured out solutions to what the customer wants, and maybe I made videos or whatnot to show them how to do minor things. This happened with me on a vehicle that I purchased. I drive a Ford truck, and there was a recall notice on it, something within the braking system, but it was part of the computerized element of the brakes. And so I called up the dealership where I take it to get worked on, and they said, "Okay, well, we can come to you and do that." And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, we have a mobile service. The mobile technician can come out to you." Well, they solved the problem because I was going to have to find a time on my calendar that would allow me to go to their dealership, sit and wait while they updated it. But they came up with an idea of, there's people all over. We've got to do these updates for them. Why don't we take our mobile technology out to them and just do it right there? And it becomes a convenience, which tie them into our dealership more. Well, it was a great answer because if they only thought about we need to have the mechanics and the machinery to do everything that we need to do, then it solves my problems on one level. I can get it done, but it's going to take a lot of time out of my day. Now, another thing prior to coming out to me that they solved is they did customer courtesy drives. So you could drop your vehicle off. They would drive you back to your office, your home, wherever you were at, within a reasonable distance, and they would come back and get you. Well, that solved the problem also because now I don't have to do two cars or just sit around at the dealership. They were thinking ahead of how can we serve our customers? How can we make our customers like doing business with us? And so in doing that, they came up with the idea, well, on certain things, we can go to them. So one of the things while the technician was out here, it was actually, he plugged it in, uploaded a new software on it, and the brakes worked different. It solved the problem. So, but he also said while we were there, he says, also, next time you have your oil changed, we will come to you. Well, I love that. I don't like going into the dealership. I don't like doing these car things. So they're creating solutions with me in their mind. What is it that your business does? Does it sell a product or does it provide a service? Now, is there a way that I can make the delivery of this more convenient for my client? What is it that my client wants? One of the things that probably goes across the board is to not have to spend time doing stuff. Through these here in the United States, they have these uh, companies now. Can't think of the name of it, but they'll go buy your groceries at the grocery store and bring them to you. A lot of people don't like doing that, and they're willing to pay the extra money to have somebody bring it to them. It doesn't fit everybody, but a lot of people use these services. So, what is it that you're doing that your client wants from you? How can you tweak it and make it more convenient? Because the more a person likes doing business with you, the more business they're going to do with you. So that's number one. Number two, raise your price. Um, this has kind of been a consistent theme that I'm seeing around. I've mentioned it on a few of my podcasts. A lot of people are afraid they're going to lose business, and they try to go as low as they can to save their client as much money. I was doing uh, some financial work with a person. They were asking me how to do it. And we go way back. There's a friend, they're a friend. I've known them for 10, 12 years, 15 years, something like that. And basically, I'm gathering some information, sharing the information so they can make a prudent decision on a subject that I understand that they really don't understand. At the end of the day, they asked, "How much do you typically charge a person for what you're doing for me?" And I said, $350 an hour. I said, "But I'm not going to charge you. I'm just doing it to help you because of our relationship and whatnot." But they were really, wow, okay. Actually, I can see that because what you've done for me is very valuable to me. Um, but a lot of people would balk at the fact or, hesitate at the fact of saying they're going to charge more money. But if you stop and you think about it, you have a product or a service, and let's say you charge $100. I'm using US figures. And somebody else who does the exact same thing charges $300. Well, you're going to have a certain amount of people that are going to just go with the lower one just to save money. But across the board, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say they must be better because they're charging more. This person must not be as confident or well established in what they're doing. And they'll go to the higher price thinking that they're getting more for their money when in reality they may be getting the exact same thing. And so a lot of people underprice out of fear, and they leave an enormous amount of money on the table. Don't be afraid to charge what you're worth, but be able to justify what you charge, and don't leave money on the table. There's plenty of people around that need to have your product or service. I remember when I was in lending, and there was a recession going on, and money was getting tight. And my supervisor came in. I was a manager. He was a district manager. Came in and said, "We're not going to participate in this recession." We all looked at him like, "What do you mean we're not going to participate in this recession?" But he said, "There's somebody out there that wants to borrow money. We're just going to work harder to find that person." And when we took on that mindset, we did well. And we didn't allow the economics of the day to hinder us. There's somebody out there that wants your product and they're willing to pay for it. Find a way, point number one, in what makes it more convenient and why they want to do business with you, and charge what you're worth. Number three is build a repeatable customer acquisition methodology. How do you get your clients? And what are your clients worth to you? What is the single best way to get clients? And so, one coaching client that I have, I've mentioned her several times. She's a bookkeeping company. And there's this certain advertising thing that every time she puts an advertisement on it, she'll get 3 to 5 new clients. And so, what she does, she doesn't advertise all the time because she's basically a one person show. So, when somebody drops off or whatnot, loses a client, then she'll go do it and regain new clients. But it's a methodology that it works like every time. Do you know how and what your best way of getting a client is? Um, Once you know how and you can repeat it, then repeat it, but don't forsake your existing clients. There's a cost to client acquisition. This is going back to my story about my vehicle and the dealership that I work with. They know it takes so much money to get a client. And in this, they now that I am a client, they actively obsess over how do they make my experience with them better so that the next time I buy a car, I will come back to them. Quite honestly, if I were to buy another car, now I don't buy cars based on the dealership, I buy cars based on what I want. But if I was wanting the vehicles that they sold, the brand, it's a Ford, I would go to them and not another Ford dealer because of the experience that I've had with them. I take my vehicle to them for the service work, which they make money off of. The more I come in there, the more that they give me. And so my daughter just bought a vehicle a couple of days before this recording, and it was by Ford also. And they were asking questions, and there was uh, a rebate that was given that if you own a Toyota product, that they would give you $2,000 off the vehicle. Well, I do. My wife drives a Toyota, and so he was looking for a way, knowing that I'm a Ford customer. How do I work with this guy and give him as much as I can give him? And so it was a $2,000 knockoff on the price, which my daughter got because I owned a Toyota, and they figured out how to make it work so that she could apprehend that rebate. So again, is what does it cost to get a new customer? If I have a customer, how do I keep them tied to me? Because the keeping a customer coming back to you is a lot less expensive than acquiring a new customer. The fourth one is one that I think a lot of people don't really put too much thought into. Hire slow, fire fast. Don't keep dead wood around. If somebody's, you may like the person, but business is business. If they're not producing, if their attitude, their behavior is not good for the culture of everybody else, you may lose another very qualified person because they don't like this person who's toxic in their behavior. And so a toxic or a mediocre hire in a small team lowers the bar for everyone. Great people love working with other great people. And so you want to, there's a culture within every business that you want to be a positive culture, because hiring a new employee is a lot more expensive than keeping an experienced employee. Even though you may be paying more for that employee, maybe by getting a new employee, you could drop the hourly wage, but you're going to have to spend a lot of time training them and getting them to learn how to retain clients and how to be productive. Well, if you have somebody that's already productive, they become more valuable as their production increases. So if somebody is not valuable to the company, they don't produce on the number scale. I remember when I was in finance again, it was actually the same company that I just referenced a minute ago. I had an employee. This guy could sell anything to anybody. He was only like 21 years old. I mean, just a kid. He was born in Mexico, came to the United States, spoke fluent English, and this kid could sell. I don't know where he got his skill set. In fact, one time, my boss's boss's boss came into my office and asked, David, who's the best salesperson in this um, office? I said, Freddie. They said, no, you are. I said, no, Freddie could sell me under the table. This kid could sell anything to anybody. Well, I was limited on what I could do for him as far as how much I could pay him. There were set guidelines as a major corporation on what I could do. But the things that I could do was ignore other things. So if he needed to come in 30 minutes late, I'd let him come in 30 minutes late. If he wanted to go to lunch, it was an hour, and hey, I'm going to go to lunch with my wife. Can I have a little bit more time? Sure, I don't care. I would give him other perks because he was so valuable in his production. He could outsell everybody else in my office and in half the amount of time. I mean, he was just that good. Well, when you have a good employee, you want to do everything you can to retain them. Well, one of the things a lot of people don't think about is the toxicity of other people. If you've got, like, let's rate them on a 1 to 10, and Freddie would clearly be a 9. Why is he not a 10? Well, he could sell at a 10, but he was also, I had to keep controls on him because he didn't do everything by the book. And if you have a 9 salesman and you've got a 3 salesman, And the 9 salesman is always irritated at the 3. Get rid of the 3. They're not producing anything. And make the environment for the 9 much happier, and find somebody who's they can get along with better. So there's principles that we can work in the workspace. I want to encourage you to put it together to enhance your abilities. And I thank you again for stopping by for our podcast, Business, Money, and Christianity, a financial podcast from a faith perspective. Make sure and make a comment, ask us a question, subscribe, whatever platform you're on. We're thankful that you came around, and we appreciate your participation with us. I look forward to seeing you next week.